When people think of quintessential slasher movies, they always bring up the big three: Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Halloween. I'm here to suggest that there should be a fourth addition to that list, and that's this week's movie, Pieces. Pieces is a 1982 horror film from director Juan Pierre Simon. The movie opens in Boston in 1942. You can tell it's 1942 by the touch-tone telephone on the desk. A young boy is putting together a puzzle. His mother walks in to see the puzzle is actually of a naked lady.
Where did this filth come from? Answer me! Answer me! What I have to put up with? You dirty-minded little brat, playing with filth like this, just like your father.
Way to overreact, Mom.
I'll kill you if I ever find stuff like that in the house again. Go get a plastic bag. I'm gonna burn everything.
This is the kind of abuse that can turn your kid into a serial killer.
Hurry up, stupid, and bring me a plastic bag to junk this stuff.
Well, she learned a valuable lesson: never get between a man and his porn. The kid cuts up his mother. A neighbor calls the police in to investigate. Let's see, what's behind door number 1? It's the mother's sawed-off head! The police find the kid hiding in the other closet. Even though this kid is covered in blood and has his fingerprints all over the murder weapon, they don't suspect that he's the killer. 40 years later, the kid is all grown up and he still has the outfit his mother was murdered in. Okay, how did an 8-year-old kid manage to take his dead mother's dress and shoes without alerting the police? We then cut to this nonsense. The girl on the skateboard is going like 1 mile per hour. I'm pretty sure she could have just stepped off of it. We go to our killer, who is putting the puzzle back together. Again, how did an 8-year-old kid remove evidence from the scene of the crime? The skateboard girl is now relaxing in the park. That is, until she gets her head cut off. How does one sneak up on you with a chainsaw? Lieutenant Bracken and Sergeant Holder meet the dean of the college to talk to him about the murder. We then see a group of students involved in the dumbest conversation ever.
They've just installed a waterbed in the training room.
Have you ever been laid on a waterbed?
The most beautiful thing in the world is smoking pot and fucking on a waterbed at the same time.
First off, why would a gym need a waterbed? Second of all, fucking on a waterbed sucks. The dean's secretary tells Professor Brown that the police think the killer is one of the staff. She also tells him that they can't find the head. So the killer cuts off the girl's head in broad daylight with the noisiest device short of a wood chipper, walks off with the head, and no one saw this? Are all the students oblivious idiots?
There's our favorite professor. How'd you like to make it with him, Susan?
Are you kidding?
The campus class? Oh, that's not nice. I think he's a sugar plum.
Down, girl. You know what they say about sugar.
Yeah, take
What do they say
care.
about sugar?
What the hell is she talking about?
Sugar plum.
Down, girl. You know what they say about sugar.
No, I don't. The dean introduces Professor Brown to the police.
Yes, he's unmarried and lives with his mother.
So he's obviously a wiener. Make sure to call him names and give him a wedgie. The police question Professor Brown.
Do you have any idea what kind of girl she was? Did she run around with guys?
Why, yes, she was on the track team.
It was a present from one of the students. God knows where he got it. It's a skull of a girl about 16.
So he accepts teenage girls' skulls as gifts.
Well, thanks very much. But first, I want to read the coroner's report.
I'm pretty sure I know what the coroner's report will say. Head cut off by fucking chainsaw. Red herring Garner Willard is cutting down some tree limbs. I love my chainsaw. Over in the library, wait a minute, I know this kid.
I want to do it underwater. See you in the pool.
It stinks.
Seriously? The kid from Pod People is our hero? So Kendall is still back in the library studying, while this lovely gal is swimming naked and waiting for him. Are we sure he's our hero? The killer shows up and captures her with a pull net? If she went underwater, she could get out of it. Girl is the brain of a goldfish. Actually, I take that back. I've seen goldfish get out of those nets. The killer goes back to his walk-in freezer. Okay, so now he has a head and a torso. I see where this is going. Willard finds the bloody chainsaw and Kendall thinks that he's the killer. Kendall returns with some cops and they reenact a WWE match. The lieutenant calls Professor Brown to the scene of the crime.
Could that have been done with a chainsaw? Like that one over there?
So what you're asking me is if this gory blood-soaked chainsaw laying right next to the body of the victim is the murder weapon. Yes, you idiot! Kendall explains why he wasn't at the pool having sex with Susan.
Do me a favor and don't mention it took you over half an hour to find me. The cops will have a heyday if
So I don't think you sought up Susan. But where the hell were you?
You know Alicia? That blonde in anthropology?
You made her too? Wow, Kendall, how do you do it?
I just whistle and they come running.
So he left the library, had sex, and came back to the library all in a half an hour. Campus stud indeed. The cops question Kendall and Larry. The lieutenant decides to bring in a female cop to work undercover at the school to flush out the killer. He asks Mary, a tennis pro who moonlights as a police officer. What? The lieutenant brings in Kendall to try to get some more information. The lieutenant also gets Kendall to work on the case. Wouldn't he still be a suspect at this point? Mary goes to the school undercover as their new tennis instructor. As you watch this scene, remember that she is a tennis pro. Evidently, she is so good at tennis that she doesn't even have to move. Meanwhile, this girl keeps running to the same spot. The killer follows a girl into an elevator and oh, come on! How exactly did he hide the chainsaw? Also, wasn't that taken in as evidence? Or does the killer just have a stockpile of yellow chainsaws? Kendall and the police hear screaming, even though they're outside and on the other end of the building. That ambulance looks suspiciously like the glass truck from earlier. Kendall's in bed with some girl and... Really, I didn't need to see that. Since the lieutenant asks Kendall to keep an eye on Mary, he sees her out the window and goes to talk to her. Mary sees someone running and is attacked. The guy passes out and Kendall shows up.
Oh, hey, it's my Kung Fu professor. What's the story, Chow?
Oh, I am out jogging, and next thing I know, I am on ground. Something I eat. Bad chop suey. So long.
Take it easy.
Okay, this guy just attacked a cop and blamed it on bad chop suey. Mary gets on Kendall's bike and he takes her back to her place. The killer's still on the prowl and he tracks another girl into the gym and kills her on that infamous waterbed. He goes to stab her in the back of the head, but wait a minute. Back at Mary's apartment. At this point, he's pretty much begging for sex.
Mary, aren't you making coffee?
Campus stud indeed. The killer's working on the puzzle, so that means he's headed out to get some legs now. He turns the loudspeakers on as a distraction and goes to kill the tennis student. He corners her and saws her in half. Kendall goes to the woman's locker room for some reason and finds the murdered girl. Mary sees the dead girl and is none too happy about it.
While we were out here fumbling with that music, the lousy bastard was in there killing her! Bastard! Bastard! Bastard!
The lieutenant is talking to Sergeant Merv Griffin and actually suggests that he takes drugs to stay awake.
We don't have any more time. Take some uppers or something. Just get me a lead.
The lieutenant suggests sending Kendall to help the sergeant.
Look, he knows everyone on that college campus. He could smell something suspicious faster than we can.
Yeah, because he's been doing such a great job up to this point.
Do you mind if I walk with you for a ways? I'm a little nervous after what's happened.
In broad daylight here in the middle of the campus, I don't think there's much to worry about.
Weren't two of the girls murdered in broad daylight? Kendall goes to the police department and Mary goes to the dean's. The dean talks to Mary and gives her some drugged coffee. Kendall is going through the police records and noticed that the dean changed his name. Really? No one else noticed this before? They find out the dean was the kid from the beginning. The sergeant and Kendall head to the dean's house. Mary is paralyzed and the dean is prepping to cut off her feet. The police break into the dean's house and manage to stop him before he can kill Mary. The cops look around for 5 seconds and leave Kendall alone with Mary. Could they have at least checked behind the curtains? The dean attacks Kendall and ouch. Kendall wrestles with the dean and actually gets the upper hand. Well, I guess the idiot's in control now. The dean now gets the upper hand. The police return and shoot him in the head. Kendall talks to the sergeant, who tells him he would make a good cop.
Join the force, kid. We're finding out little secrets like that all the time.
Really?
The hell? Why did 2 different girls fall out of the closet? When he opens it up, she's a brunette, and then she falls on him, it's a blonde. And why is she in the closet and not the freezer? Kendall and the cops are leaving when he gets one final surprise that makes absolutely, positively no sense. Director J.P. Simon made a few films in Spain and attracted the attention of horror and exploitation producer Dick Randall. Randall had offered him the chance to direct the sequel to Last House on the Left, but after Simon read the script, he turned it down. Randall then showed him a 15-page synopsis called Jigsaw. Simon liked this, so he took the synopsis and flushed it out into a full screenplay in 15 days. He called it 1,000 Cries Has the Night, but eventually settled on Pieces. The movie was filmed mostly in Madrid, Spain, with a few pickup shots filmed in Boston. They shot the whole thing in about 5 weeks. Despite only being released in 95 theaters in New York, the film still opened in the number 5 spot against some heavy competition like Mr. Mom and Return of the Jedi. J.P. Simon followed Pieces up with Pod People, a movie that's so bad it's one of the best episodes of Mystery Science Theater. Simon liked Ian Serra, who played Kendall, so much that he brought him in for Pod People. The husband and wife duo of Christopher and Linda George played Lieutenant Bracken and Mary Riggs. Linda George has since expressed her dislike of the film. Eli Roth, who's a huge fan of Pieces, asked her if she would talk about her experience for the DVD. She declined, saying that she wanted nothing to do with the film. As I said, Eli Roth is a huge fan of the movie. He did an homage to Pieces in the opening of Hostel 2. And even though one of the greatest scenes in movie history...
Pancakes! No pancakes!
...seemed to be inspired by this, he swears it was purely a coincidence. Speaking of the kung fu scene, for as random as it was, they actually had a reason for it. The movie was coming up short and they needed to stretch it out a bit. Randall had been making Bruceploitation films at the time and was on set with Bruce Lee. They quickly wrote and filmed the scene while he was there. Simon hated the original score to the film, so he commissioned a special one specifically for the movie. The special composition was only used for the international print of the movie, while the US got the original garbage score. The special score really does add a lot to the movie and gives it a completely different feel. They were filming the movie in December, and the temperature dropped to 5 below zero. While filming the pool scene, the actress had to swim in freezing cold water. Because of this, she almost died of hypothermia. It was painfully obvious that the tennis pros were anything but. As it turned out, neither of the girls had even seen a tennis racket until they had arrived on set. The scene where the girl gets sawed in half was done by sawing the body of a dead pig. The girl who had her head cut off was on a special raised platform, and they pushed her head through the grass to make her look like she was decapitated. For years, people thought the killer was based on a typical giallo villain, but Simon said he was actually based off the classic character, the Shadow. The movie is far from perfect, but that's actually what makes it perfect. The cheesy score... the ridiculous dialogue...
Who knows at this stage? We're just out buying clothes without labels and trying them on for size.
The massive amount of gore, the massive amount of nudity, and the absurd plot make this essential viewing. While it may not be well known to the average person, to horror aficionados like myself, I consider it to be a very important entry into the genre. Sure, I gave the movie a good beating, but I genuinely love it. It has a certain charm that makes you love it, flaws and all. It wasn't trying to be something else. It was pure, unadulterated horror exploitation schlock. That's why it sports the tagline, "It's exactly what you think it is."